Captain Lee Jun stood on the bridge of his ship and looked out at the stars. The research vessel Harmony's Edge moved slowly through space near the planet New Busan. It was a peaceful day, just like many others in the past 3 years. Lee Jun had been doing this job for a long time. He loved exploring new places and finding interesting things in space. New Busan was a beautiful planet. More than 2 million humans lived there now. They had built cities with tall buildings that reached toward the sky. Children played in parks while their parents worked in offices and factories. The planet had clean air, blue oceans, and green forests. It was everything humans hoped for when they left Earth to find new homes among the stars. Dr. Park Hana worked in the science lab below the bridge. She was very smart and knew everything about old civilizations. Her job was to study ruins and artifacts from alien species that lived long ago. Today she was very excited because her team had found something amazing on the planet's surface. "Captain Lee," Dr. Park called through the communication system. "You need to see this right away." Lee Jun walked down to the lab. Dr. Park was standing next to a large screen showing pictures of stone buildings buried deep underground. The buildings were very old and covered with strange symbols that no human had ever seen before. "These ruins are at least 50,000 years old," Dr. Park explained. Her eyes were bright with excitement. "But here's the interesting part. The symbols show that whoever built these was very advanced. They had space travel, energy weapons, and technology we don't understand yet." Lee Jun looked at the pictures carefully. "What happened to them?" "That's what we're trying to figure out," Dr. Park said. "All the evidence shows they just disappeared. One day, no bodies, no sign of war or disease, they were just gone." While they talked, Lieutenant Kim Soo was working at his station on the bridge. He watched the sensors that could detect ships and objects far away in space. For the past hour, he had been seeing strange readings at the edge of the star system. At first, he thought it was just space dust or small rocks, but now the readings were getting stronger. "Captain," Lieutenant Kim called, "I'm picking up large objects moving toward us from deep space. They're still far away, but they're very big and moving very fast." Lee Jun hurried back to the bridge. He looked at Kim's screen and saw dozens of red dots moving across the display. Each dot was the size of a large military ship. There were more coming behind them. "How many ships?" Lee Jun asked. "At least 60, sir. Maybe more. They'll reach New Busan in about 6 hours. Lee Jun felt worried. No one had told them about any ships coming to this system. All human ships had to report their movements to keep everyone safe. These ships were not human. On New Busan, Admiral Kim Tae was having lunch with his family when the warning message came through. He was the head of the planet's defense force. His job was to protect all the people who lived there. The message from Captain Lee Jun made him stop eating and rush to the command center. The command center was a large room filled with screens and computers. Dozens of people worked there day and night to watch for any danger. When Admiral Kim arrived, everyone looked worried. "Show me what we're dealing with," Admiral Kim said. Major Park Yan pointed to the main screen. 63 ships of unknown design. They're not responding to our communication attempts. They'll be here in 5 hours and 30 minutes. Admiral Lei. Kim had been a soldier for 25 years. He had fought in small battles on distant planets, but nothing like this. He had never seen so many alien ships at once. The biggest problem was that New Busan only had 12 defense ships. They were small and fast, but they could not fight 63 large warships. "Keep trying to contact them," Admiral Kim ordered. "Send messages in every language we know. Tell them we are peaceful." Tell them we just want to talk. For the next 4 hours, the humans sent message after message to the approaching ships. They used 17 different alien languages. They sent pictures showing human families and children. They played music and sent mathematical equations to prove they were intelligent and peaceful. The alien ships never answered. When the ships finally arrived at New Busan, the humans got their first look at the aliens inside them. They were tall creatures made of what looked like living crystal. Their bodies were clear like glass, but hard like diamond. They had sharp arms that could cut through metal. They moved in a strange way, like they were floating instead of walking. The crystal beings were called the Vorthak. They had been traveling through space for thousands of years, destroying every living thing they found. They believed that flesh and blood creatures like humans were dirty and needed to be cleaned away. They had killed billions of aliens on hundreds of planets. Admiral Kim tried one more time to talk to them. "This is Admiral Kim Tae of the New Busan Defense Force. We are a peaceful people. We do not want to fight. Please tell us what you want." The Vorthak leader's voice came through the speakers. It sounded like breaking glass mixed with screaming metal. "You are contamination. Organic life is a disease. We will clean this system." Thor. Attack began immediately. Bright energy beams shot down from the Vorthak ships toward New Busan. But they did not aim for military targets or government buildings. They aimed for schools, hospitals, and homes where families lived. The first beam hit a school where 300 children were learning about art and music. The building disappeared in a flash of light. Admiral Kim watched in horror as more beams struck the planet. A hospital treating sick people was destroyed. A park where children played was turned into a smoking crater. The aliens were not trying to win a war. They were trying to kill every human on the planet. "All defense ships, attack now," Admiral Kim shouted into his communicator. The 12 human ships flew up to meet the 63 alien ships. They were brave and fought as hard as they could. But they were too small and too few. Within 30 minutes, 8 human ships were destroyed. The other 4 were badly damaged. Captain Lee Jun watched the battle from his research ship. He had never been in a real fight before, but he could not just watch while people died. He turned his ship toward the largest Vorthak vessel and prepared to attack. "Dr. Park, get everyone to the escape pods," he told her. "Lieutenant Kim, send out a message on all frequencies. Tell every human in the galaxy what's happening here." Lee Jun began recording his message while his ship flew toward the alien fleet. "This is Captain Lee Jun of the Terran Colonial Defense Force. New Busan is under unprovoked attack by hostile aliens. They are targeting civilians. They are targeting children. This is not a military operation. This is murder." He paused and looked out at the burning planet below. Millions of innocent people were dying while he watched. "They think they can scare us," Lee Jun continued. "They think they can make us run away, but they made one big mistake. They made us angry, and that's the last mistake they'll ever make." The message went out across space at the speed of light. It would reach Earth in 3 days. It would reach the human colonies in hours. Soon, every human in the galaxy would know what the Vorthak had done. The crystal aliens had killed human children. They had attacked a peaceful planet. They had started something they could never finish. They just didn't know it yet. Admiral Choi Yuna was sleeping when the emergency alarm woke her up. The sound was loud and sharp, cutting through her dreams like a knife. She had been the head of Earth's space defense for 10 years. But she had never heard this particular alarm before. It was the sound that meant Protocol 7 had been activated. Protocol 7 had not been used for over 100 years. It was created after the last big war between humans and aliens. The rule was simple. If any alien species attacked human civilians on purpose, all of humanity would work together to destroy that species completely. Most people thought it would never be used again. Admiral Choi jumped out of bed and ran to the command center on Luna Base. Luna Base was built inside the moon and was the most protected place in the solar system. From here, she could command all human military forces across the galaxy. The command center was already full of people when she arrived. Officers and scientists were working at dozens of computers, their faces lit up by glowing screens. Everyone looked worried and angry at the same time. "Give me the full report," Admiral Choi said as she sat down at the main command desk. Colonel Park Min brought her a datapad with all the information. "New Busan colony is under attack by an alien species calling themselves the Vorthak. Captain, Lee Jun's ship was destroyed trying to help defend the planet. More than 500,000 civilians are confirmed dead." Admiral Choi felt her heart stop for a moment. 500,000 people. Men, women, children, old people, babies. All dead because crystal aliens decided humans were dirty. What about Admiral Kim Tae and the Defense Force? Still fighting, but they won't last much longer. The aliens have too many ships. Admiral Choi looked at the big screen showing the battle at New Busan. She could see the Vorthak ships firing their weapons at cities while the few remaining human ships tried desperately to stop them. It was like watching children fight against giants. "Activate Protocol 7, she said quietly. Everyone in the command center stopped working and looked at her. Protocol 7 meant total war. It meant every human world, every human ship, every human factory would focus on one goal: destroying the enemy completely. "Are you sure, Admiral?" Colonel Park asked. "Once we activate Protocol 7, we can't take it back." Admiral Choi thought about all the dead children on New Busan. She thought about the families who would never see their loved ones again. She thought about the crystal aliens who had decided that human life meant nothing. "I'm sure," she said. "Send the message to every human world. Tell them what happened. Tell them we're going to war." On Mars, engineer Bae Minho was working late in his laboratory when the message arrived. He was designing new engines for civilian ships, peaceful technology to help humans explore more of the galaxy. When he saw the videos from New Busan, everything changed. Bae Minho had 3 children, 2 boys and a girl, all under 10 years old. When he saw the destroyed school on New Busan, he imagined his own children inside. When he saw the burning hospital, he thought about his wife who worked as a doctor. He walked to his computer and began typing. Within hours, he had converted all his peaceful engine designs into weapons. The same technology that could push a ship between the stars could also power the most destructive missiles humans had ever built. All across Mars, other engineers and scientists were doing the same thing. Factories that made farming equipment began making guns. Companies that built space stations started building warships. Children's toy factories were turned into ammunition plants. Dr. Song Leah was studying alien bacteria on Europa when the news reached her research station. She was a peaceful scientist who had spent her whole life trying to understand alien life forms. She had always believed that humans and aliens could be friends if they just learned to understand each other. The Vorthak changed her mind about that. Dr. Song gathered her research team in the main laboratory. 23 of the smartest scientists in the galaxy worked with her. They studied everything from tiny bacteria to huge space creatures. Now they had a new mission: We're going to learn everything we can about Vorthak biology, Dr. Song told her team. We're going to find out how they think, how they breathe, how they live. And then we're going to find out how to make them stop doing all of those things. Her team worked for 18 hours straight, studying every piece of information they could find about the crystal aliens. They discovered that the Vorthak were not really alive in the same way humans were. They were more like living computers made of silicon and energy. This gave Dr. Song an idea for a weapon that could hurt them in a way they would never expect. On the peaceful colony world of Gliesa 667C, the people had never owned weapons. They were farmers, teachers, artists, and musicians. They had left Earth because they wanted to live simple, quiet lives far from war and violence. When they heard about New Busan, even these peaceful people voted to help with the war effort. Elder Kim Nabi, who was 90 years old and had been a peace activist her whole life, stood up in the colony meeting hall and spoke to everyone. "I have been against violence my entire life," she said. "I came here to escape war and live in peace. But sometimes, peace must be defended with force. Sometimes, evil must be stopped before it spreads. These crystal monsters killed our children. They will pay for what they have done." The farmers of Gliesa 667C began growing food to feed human soldiers. The teachers started training young people to fight. The artists created propaganda posters showing the destruction of New Busan. Even the musicians wrote war songs to inspire human troops. Captain Oh Bin had been retired for 5 years. He lived in a small house on a quiet planet with his wife and 2 dogs. He spent his days reading books and growing vegetables in his garden. He thought his fighting days were over. When he saw what happened to New Busan, he put on his old uniform and reported for duty. At 55 years old, he was one of the most experienced military commanders in human space. He had fought in 6 different wars and had never lost a battle. "I'm too old for this," his wife told him as he packed his bags. "No," Captain O said. "I'm exactly the right age for this. I'm old enough to know how to fight. And I'm old enough to not care if I die doing it. Those crystal bastards killed children. That ends now." Within 24 hours of the attack on New Busan, 3,000 retired soldiers had volunteered to return to active duty. They came from every human world, ready to fight one last war. The message from Protocol 7 reached the Galactic Council 3 days later. The Galactic Council was a group of 47 different alien species that worked together to keep peace in the galaxy. They had prevented wars for over 3,000 years by helping different species talk to each other instead of fighting. Ambassador Young Nara was humanity's representative to the Council. She was a smart diplomat who had spent 15 years building friendships with alien species. She believed in peace and cooperation, but when she stood up to address the council chambers, her words were hard as steel. "The Vorthak Dominion has committed genocide against human civilians," she said. "They attacked without warning. They targeted schools and hospitals. They murdered children. This is not war. This is extermination." The alien delegates in the chamber made worried sounds. Many of them had never heard a human speak with such anger before. Humans were known for being emotional, but they were also known for being reasonable. Ambassador Young did not sound reasonable anymore. "The human coalition hereby declares total war against the Vorthak Dominion," she continued. "We will not stop until every last one of them is dead. We will not negotiate. We will not show mercy. They chose extinction when they killed our children." The Zalani delegate, a wise alien who looked like a cross between a bird and a fish, stood up to speak. "Ambassador Young, surely there must be some way to solve this without more violence. The Galactic Council can mediate between your species and the Vorthak. Ambassador Young looked at the Zalani with eyes that could melt metal. They had their chance to avoid this when they saw our children burning. That chance is gone forever. She left the council chambers without saying another word. As she walked out, 47 different alien species realized that humanity was about to do something the galaxy had never seen before. Back on Earth, Admiral Choi watched reports coming in from every human world. In 72 hours, humanity had completely transformed itself from a peaceful civilization into a war machine. Cargo ships were being converted into battleships. Civilian factories were making weapons. Scientists were designing new ways to kill crystal aliens. But the most impressive thing was the unity. For the first time in human history, every single human colony, every government, every corporation, and every individual person was working toward the same goal. There were no arguments about politics or money or territory. There was only one mission: make the Vorthak pay for what they had done. Admiral Choi looked at the reports and felt something she had never felt before. It was not anger, although she was very angry. It was not sadness, although she was heartbroken about New Busan. It was certainty. She was absolutely certain that the Vorthak had made the biggest mistake in galactic history. "How long until our first strike force is ready?" she asked Colonel Park. 6 days, Admiral. 300 ships with full crews and weapons. Fleet Admiral Kang Wu stood on the bridge of the massive warship Terra's Hammer and watched as human ships gathered in the darkness of space. In his 40 years as a military officer, he had never seen anything like this. Ships came from every direction, arriving faster than anyone thought possible. 3 days earlier, these had been cargo ships carrying food between planets, mining vessels digging metals from asteroids, research ships studying distant stars. Now they were all warships, fitted with the most powerful weapons humanity could build in just 96 hours. "Final count, Admiral," his aide Lieutenant Park High reported. 2,847 ships ready for combat. Admiral Kang felt his breath catch in his throat. The human military had never assembled a fleet this large before. It was bigger than some alien species' entire space forces. And this was just the first wave. More ships were being prepared on every human world. "Signal all ships," Admiral Kang ordered. "We jump to New Busan in 30 minutes. Remember, we're not just fighting for revenge. There are still humans alive down there. We're going to save them." The first rule of human military strategy was simple: never leave anyone behind. Even if it meant risking everything, humans would always try to save their own people. The Vorthak were about to learn this the hard way. When the human fleet arrived at New Busan, they found a horror beyond imagination. The planet was covered in smoke and fire. Entire cities had been turned into glass craters. The oceans were boiling from the heat of Vorthak weapons. But the crystal aliens were still there, still hunting the humans who had managed to hide. Admiral Kang contacted the surviving humans on the planet's surface. "This is Admiral Kang Wu of the Terran Defense Force. We're here to get you out. Stay hidden for just a little longer." The response came from Commander An Bo, who had been leading a group of survivors in the underground tunnels beneath New Seoul City. "Admiral, there are about 50,000 of us left, but the crystal aliens have us surrounded. They're trying to dig us out." "Not anymore, they're not," Admiral Kang said. The human attack began with something the Vorthak had never seen before: coordinated swarm tactics. Instead of fighting ship to ship like most space battles, the humans sent thousands of small fighters at the enemy all at once. Each fighter was controlled by an artificial intelligence that could think and adapt faster than any living creature. Captain Sim Yu led the first fighter wing into battle. She was 26 years old and had been flying for only 4 years. But she had trained on simulation programs that taught her to fight like a pilot with 20 years of experience. As her fighter screamed toward the nearest Vorthak ship, she felt no fear, only cold anger. "Remember," she told her wing over the radio, "these things killed children. Show them what happens when you make humans angry." The fighters moved like a swarm of angry bees, too fast and too many for the Vorthak ships to target effectively. They attacked from every angle at once, overwhelming the crystal aliens' defenses. Within the first 10 minutes of battle, 12 Vorthak ships were destroyed, but the humans had planned something even more shocking. Commander Shin Yuri was flying a fighter loaded with experimental boarding equipment. Instead of trying to destroy a Vorthak ship, she was going to capture one. "This is insane," her co-pilot Lieutenant Nam Jun said as they approached the enemy vessel. "We don't even know if we can breathe their atmosphere." "We don't need to breathe," Commander Shin replied. "We just need to kill them and take their ship." The boarding operation worked perfectly. Commander Shin and her team cut through the Vorthak ship's hull and fought their way inside. The crystal aliens were strong and fast, but they had never fought anything as determined as an angry human soldier. When the fighting was over, Commander Shin stood in the Vorthak command center looking at their navigation computers. What she found there made her blood turn cold. "Admiral Kang," she called over the radio, "you need to see this. I'm sending you the data from their computers." The information showed that New Busan was not a random target. The Vorthak had a plan to systematically destroy every human colony in this part of the galaxy. They had detailed maps showing the locations of human worlds, the number of people living there, and the order in which they planned to attack them. But there was something even worse. The Vorthak databases contained records of hundreds of other species they had already exterminated. Entire civilizations had been wiped out just like they were trying to do to humans. The crystal aliens had been doing this for thousands of years. Admiral Kang shared this information with all the human ships in the fleet. When the crews learned that they were not just fighting for New Busan, but for every innocent species the Vorthak had ever murdered, their anger turned into something much more dangerous: righteous fury. The battle for New Busan lasted 18 hours. When it was over, 63 Vorthak ships were destroyed, and the remaining humans on the planet were rescued. But this was just the beginning. While Admiral Kang's fleet fought at New Busan, other human forces were tracking down Vorthak outposts throughout the galaxy. General Park Day led ground troops in an assault on a Vorthak mining operation on the planet Kepler 438b. The crystal aliens had been using slave labor from captured species to dig rare minerals from the planet's core. When the human soldiers arrived, they found thousands of alien prisoners who had been worked nearly to death. Many were species that humans had never seen before, the last survivors of worlds the Vorthak had destroyed. "This ends today, General," Park told his troops as they prepared for the ground assault. "No more slaves, no more genocide. We're going to shut this down permanently." The battle was fierce, but short. The Vorthak ground forces were not prepared for human tactics. Human soldiers moved in small teams, using the planet's terrain to hide, while they attacked from unexpected directions. They coordinated their movements using advanced communication systems that could not be detected or jammed. Most importantly, they fought with a level of determination that the Vorthak could not understand. When a human soldier saw the alien prisoners, saw how they had been tortured and starved, something inside them snapped. They stopped thinking about their own safety and focused only on destroying the enemy. Within 6 hours, the mining operation was completely destroyed. Every Vorthak on the planet was dead. The freed prisoners looked at their human rescuers with a mixture of gratitude and amazement. News of human victories began spreading across the galaxy. Other alien species started paying attention to what humanity was doing. Some were impressed by human military skill. Others were frightened by human ruthlessness. The peaceful Zalani Collective sent a secret message to Admiral Choi Yuna on Luna Base. The message contained detailed intelligence about Vorthak military, bases, and ship movements. The Zalani had been too afraid to fight the crystal aliens themselves, but they wanted to help humanity succeed. The warrior species known as the Corvan Empire offered to join the war as human allies. They respected strength and were impressed by how quickly humans had mobilized their forces. But Admiral Choi politely declined their offer. "This is not your fight," she told the Corvan ambassador. "This is about justice, and humans handle their own justice." What the aliens did not understand was that humanity was not interested in glory or conquest. They were not trying to build an empire or show off their military power. They had one simple goal: the complete destruction of the Vorthak species. Dr. Song Lia's research team on Europa had been working around the clock to understand Vorthak biology. After examining the captured ship from Commander Shin's boarding operation, they made a breakthrough that would change everything. "They're not individual creatures like we thought," Dr. Song explained to Admiral Choi during a secure video call. "They're all connected through quantum neural networks. Each Vorthak is like a single brain cell in a larger consciousness." "What does that mean for us?" Admiral Choi asked. "It means we can hurt them in ways they never imagined," Dr. Song replied, with a smile that was not friendly at all. "I'm developing something I call the Silence Protocol. It will disrupt their quantum networks and essentially lobotomize their entire species." Admiral Choi felt a chill run down her spine. The Silence Protocol would not just kill individual Vorthak, it would destroy their ability to think or communicate. It would turn them into empty crystal shells. "How long until it's ready?" "Give me 2 weeks, Dr. Song said. 2 weeks, and we can make them wish they had never heard of humanity." Meanwhile, Engineer Bae Minho on Mars was working on something even more ambitious. He had taken his peaceful engine designs and turned them into the blueprint for the most destructive weapon in galactic history. "It's called the Stellar Cascade Generator," he explained to his team of engineers. "We plant it inside a star, and it causes a controlled supernova. The entire solar system gets wiped out in minutes." His assistant, Dr. Moon Cha, looked at the plans with wide eyes. "Bae, this could destroy planets with billions of people on them." "That's the point," Engineer Bae replied. "The Vorthak homeworld has 14 billion of them. If we use this weapon, we end their species permanently." The weapon was designed with one purpose: to ensure that the Vorthak could never hurt anyone ever again. It was not enough to defeat them in battle. Dr. Song Lia had not slept in 3 days. Her eyes were red and tired, but they burned with fierce determination. In the laboratory on Europa, she and her team had finally completed the Silence Protocol. The weapon was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. "Show me how it works," Admiral Choi said through the video screen. She had traveled from Luna Base to see the weapon herself. Dr. Song held up a small device that looked like a silver cube. It was beautiful in a deadly way, glowing, softly with internal light. The Vorthak think with quantum neural networks, she explained. This device generates a specific frequency that disrupts those networks. It spreads like a virus through their entire consciousness. What happens to them? They become empty, still alive, but unable to think, communicate, or feel. They'll be aware of what's happening but powerless to stop it. Dr. Song's voice was cold as ice. It's the perfect punishment for creatures who murdered children. Admiral Choi stared at the device. In her 40 years as a military officer, she had seen many weapons. But this was different. This was not just a tool of war. It was an instrument of justice. How do we deploy it? We need to get close to their homeworld. The device has to be activated within their solar system to affect their entire species. Once it's triggered, every Vorthak in the galaxy will be silenced forever. Captain Lee Jun was dead. His ship had been destroyed defending New Busan. But his message had traveled across the galaxy, inspiring every human to fight harder. Now, his brother, Captain Lee Jun, commanded the new flagship New Busan's Revenge, the largest warship humanity had ever built. The ship was 5 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. But more importantly, it carried something that represented humanity's promise to the dead: the Silence Protocol device. All ships, prepare for jump to Vorth Kalar system, Captain Lee Jun announced to the fleet. 2,000 ships had gathered for this final assault. Every human world had contributed vessels and crews. This was not just Earth's fleet or Mars' fleet. This was humanity's fleet. The jump to the Vorthak homeworld took 6 hours. When the human ships arrived, they found themselves facing the largest concentration of enemy forces in galactic history. The crystal aliens had pulled back their entire military to defend their homeworld. Over 10,000 Vorthak ships surrounded the planet Vorth Kalar. The planet itself was a wonder to see. It was made entirely of living crystal that grew like a vast city toward the sky. 14 billion Vorthak lived in the crystal towers that reached up into space. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Admiral Kang Wu studied the enemy formations from his command ship. 10,000 against 2,000 were bad odds for most species. But humans were not most species. Remember, he told his fleet, "Commanders, we're not here to fight a fair battle. We're here to end this forever. Use every advantage we have." The human attack began with Engineer Bei Minho's latest creation, the Stellar Cascade Generator. Captain Oh Bin, now 70 years, old but still sharp as a blade, led a small team to plant the device inside Vorth Kalar's star. "This is either the bravest thing I've ever done or the stupidest," Captain O said as his ship dove toward the massive ball of nuclear fire. "Both," replied his co-pilot, Commander Yu Min. "But those crystal bastards killed kids, so we're doing it anyway." The mission required flying through the star's corona while avoiding detection by Vorthak sensor arrays. The heat was so intense that the ship's hull began to glow red-hot. But Captain O had flown through worse during his long career. "Device planted," he reported as they escaped the star's gravity well. "We now have a controlled supernova on a timer. When Admiral Kang gives the signal, this entire system dies." While Captain O's team prepared the ultimate backup plan, the main battle began in space around Vorth Kalar. The humans used every tactic they had learned in months of fighting: swarm attacks, boarding actions, coordinated strikes from multiple directions, but the Vorthak were fighting for their survival now. They fought with desperate fury, using weapons they had never revealed before. Energy beams that could slice through the strongest human armor, gravity weapons that crushed ships like tin cans, quantum torpedoes that made entire vessels simply disappear. Commander Shin Yuri led a strike team toward the planet's surface. Her mission was to get close enough to activate the silence protocol, but first, she had to fight through thousands of Vorthak defenders. This is Shin Yuri to all strike. "Teams!" she called over the radio as her ship dodged crystal weapons fire. "Remember what these monsters did. Remember the children of New Busan. Make them pay for every innocent life they took." The battle in space was fierce, but the real surprise came from the planet's surface. As human ships approached Vorthkalar, energy readings showed something incredible. The entire planet was one massive quantum computer. Every crystal building, every Vorthak citizen, every structure on the surface was connected in a single enormous consciousness. Dr. Park Hana, the archaeologist who had first discovered Vorthak ruins, was monitoring the energy readings from her ship. "Admiral," she called to Kang-woo, "I'm seeing something impossible. The planet itself is alive. It's not just where the Vorthak live. It is the Vorthak." This discovery changed everything. The silence protocol would not just affect individual crystal aliens. It would lobotomize an entire living world. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council was watching the battle with growing alarm. Ambassador Young Nara had warned them that humanity would not stop until the Vorthak were extinct. Now 47 different alien species were seeing what that actually meant. The Althari representative, a wise creature that had lived for 3,000 years, sent an emergency message to Admiral Choi on Luna Base. "Admiral, you must call off this attack. The destruction of an entire species sets a dangerous precedent. What will stop other species from doing the same thing?" "Admiral." Choi's response was broadcast to the entire Galactic Council. The Vorthak had hundreds of chances to stop. They could have stopped when they first saw human children running in terror. They could have stopped when they realized we were not a military threat. They could have stopped when we sent them peaceful messages. They chose genocide instead. Now they face the consequences. "But surely there must be some Vorthak who are innocent," the Althari pleaded. "Were the children of New Busan innocent?" Admiral Choi asked. "Were the doctors and teachers they murdered innocent? The Vorthak made their choice as a species. Now they live with the results. Or rather, they don't." On Vorthkalar, the battle reached its climax as Commander Shin Yuri's strike team finally reached the planet's surface. The crystal landscape was alien and beautiful, but it was also a fortress. Every surface could become a weapon. Every building could move to block their path. "Almost there," Commander Shin reported as her team fought through waves of Vorthak defenders. "I can see the central nexus. That's where we activate the protocol." But the Vorthak had one final surprise. From deep beneath the crystal surface, something enormous began to rise. It was the planet's core consciousness, the central mind that controlled every Vorthak in existence. It was a crystal being the size of a mountain, ancient beyond measure, and filled with the memories of every species the Vorthak had ever destroyed. "By the depths of space," Lieutenant Nam Jun whispered as he stared at the massive creature. "How do we fight something like that?" "Commander." Shin checked her equipment one more time. The silence protocol device was still working, still ready to fulfill its purpose. "We don't fight it," she said. "We silence it." The core consciousness spoke with a voice like breaking galaxies. "Organic contamination. You will be cleansed. Your species will join the 47 we have already purified. 47 species, Commander Shin repeated. 47 entire civilizations. You're not just monsters. You're the monsters that other monsters have nightmares about. She activated the silence protocol. The effect was immediate and absolute. The device sent out quantum pulses that spread through the planet's crystal networks faster than light. Every Vorthak consciousness, from the smallest individual to the vast planetary mind, was suddenly and permanently severed from their quantum neural connections. The silence was deafening. For the first time in millions of years, the Vorthak homeworld made no sound. The crystal beings stood frozen like statues, their minds trapped in bodies that could no longer think or feel or communicate. Admiral Kang watched from orbit as the entire planet went dark. No energy signatures, no communications, no sign of consciousness anywhere. 14 billion Vorthak had been reduced to empty crystal shells in seconds. Protocol activated successfully, Commander Shin reported. The Vorthak consciousness has been terminated, but humanity was not finished yet. Engineer Bei Minho's stellar cascade generator was still planted in the system's star, ready to ensure that the Vorthak could never recover from the silence protocol. Captain, O-Bin received the final order from Admiral Kang. This is for every species they destroyed. This is for every child they murdered. This is for New Busan. Activate the cascade. The star began to die. It started as a small fluctuation in the star's energy output. Then the fluctuation grew stronger, spreading through the stellar core like a virus. Within minutes, the star was consuming itself in a runaway fusion reaction. All ships, emergency jump now. 6 months after the destruction of Vorthkalar, the galaxy was a different place. Where once the Vorthak Dominion had controlled vast regions of space, now there was only silence. Human fleets moved through former crystal territories like ghosts, hunting down the last remnants of a species that had made the fatal mistake of murdering human children. Captain Lee Jun stood on the bridge of New Busan's Revenge and watched his crew work with quiet efficiency. They had been hunting for 18 hours straight, following energy signatures that might lead them to the last Vorthak outpost in this sector. His crew never complained about the long hours. Everyone remembered why they were here. Contact detected, reported Sensor Officer Park Soo. One Vorthak ship, heavily damaged, trying to hide behind the gas giant's fourth moon. Captain Lee studied the sensor readings. The crystal ship was small, probably a scout vessel that had been away from home when the homeworld died. It had been running for months, desperately searching for other survivors of its species. "How many life signs?" Captain Lee asked. "Approximately 200 Vorthak. They're broadcasting surrender signals in 17 different languages." Captain Lee felt nothing when he heard this. 6 months ago, he might have felt pity for a defeated enemy. But then he remembered the videos from New Busan. He remembered the school that had been vaporized while children sang songs about peace and friendship. "Open a channel," he ordered. The main screen showed the interior of the Vorthak ship. Crystal beings that had once seemed terrifying now looked broken and desperate. Their leader stepped forward, its crystalline body flickering. "With weak energy, human vessel," the Vorthak said in perfect English, "we surrender. We do not wish to fight. We only want to find a place to live in peace." Captain Lee stared at the creature for a long moment. "You want peace?" "Yes. We have learned from our mistakes. We will not harm any organic life forms. We only ask for mercy." "Mercy," Captain Lee repeated the word slowly. "Like the mercy you showed the children of New Busan." Like the mercy you showed the 47 species you exterminated before you met us? The Vorthak leader's energy pattern shifted in what might have been shame. We were wrong. We see that now. Please, allow us to live. Captain Lee looked around, his bridge at his crew. Every face showed the same cold determination. These were people who had lost friends, family members, loved ones to Vorthak weapons. They had all seen the records of the crystal aliens' crimes across the galaxy. Fire all weapons, Captain Lee ordered quietly. The Vorthak ship disappeared in a flash of brilliant light. 200 more crystal aliens joined their species in extinction. Captain Lee felt no satisfaction, no anger, no emotion at all. It was simply another job completed. Any other contacts in this system? He asked. Negative, sir. System is clear. Set course for the next sector. We have more work to do. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out every day. Human ships found, Vorthak survivors, and eliminated them with mechanical precision. It was not about revenge anymore. It was about completion. Humanity had made a promise to finish what the crystal aliens had started, and humans always kept their promises. Dr. Song Leah worked in her laboratory on Europa, analyzing data from each destroyed Vorthak outpost. She was creating a comprehensive record of their crimes, a database that would ensure the galaxy never forgot what the crystal species had done. The numbers are staggering, she told Admiral Choi during their weekly briefing. We've confirmed that the Vorthak destroyed at least 47 complete civilizations. Billions of innocent beings murdered across thousands of years. What about their technology? Admiral Choi asked. Anything useful we can salvage? Nothing we want, Dr. Song replied firmly. Their entire technological base was designed for one purpose: killing organic life. Better to let it all burn. Admiral Choi nodded approvingly. Humanity had no interest in becoming like the Vorthak. They were destroyers, not creators. When this war was over, humans would go back to building peaceful colonies and exploring the stars. On the rebuilt world of New Busan, memorials stood where schools and hospitals had once been destroyed. Elder Kim Nabi, now 91 years old, had returned from Gliese 667c to help oversee the planet's reconstruction. She walked through the memorial gardens every morning, reading the names of everyone who had died. The memorial was simple but powerful. 47 sections, one for each species the Vorthak had exterminated. In the center stood a single black stone with words carved in every known language. They thought they could make us afraid. Instead, they made us angry. That was their last mistake. Children played in the new parks built around the memorial. Their laughter echoed through the gardens where their friends had once died. Elder Kim watched them play and felt satisfaction. The children were safe now. They would always be safe, because the monsters that had threatened them no longer existed. Ambassador Young Nara stood before the Galactic Council for the last time. The chamber was quieter than usual. Many of the alien delegates seemed nervous when they looked at her. In 6 months, they had watched humanity systematically erase an entire species from existence with ruthless efficiency. The Vorthak Dominion has been completely eliminated, she announced. Our forces have destroyed their homeworld, their colonies, their ships, and every individual member of their species. They no longer exist. The Althari representative, who had pleaded for mercy during the final battle, stood up slowly. Ambassador Young, what humanity has accomplished is unprecedented. In 3 million years of galactic history, no species has ever successfully exterminated another so completely. We're very thorough, Ambassador Young replied without emotion. But what does this mean for galactic civilization? What message does this send to other species? Ambassador Young looked around the chamber at 46 different alien species. Each one was trying to understand what humanity had become. Each one was wondering if humans might someday turn this terrible efficiency against them. The message is simple, she said. Humanity does not start wars. We prefer peace, cooperation, and mutual understanding. But if you attack our civilians, if you murder our children, you cease to exist. This is not a threat. This is just a fact of how the universe works now. She paused and let her words sink in before continuing. The Vorthak had thousands of opportunities to choose a different path. They could have lived in peace alongside organic life. They could have found uninhabited worlds to colonize. They could have simply left us alone. Instead, they chose genocide. They chose to murder children, so we chose to make them extinct. The chamber was completely silent. Finally, the ancient Zalani delegate spoke up. What will humanity do now? Now we go back to building schools and hospitals. We go back to exploring the galaxy and making friends with peaceful species. We go back to being the same humans we were before. Ambassador Young's expression softened slightly. We never wanted to become killers. But sometimes the universe forces you to become what you need to be. She gathered her materials and prepared to leave. The Galactic Council can continue its work maintaining peace. Just remember that humanity will always be watching. If anyone else decides that organic life needs to be cleansed from the galaxy, they'll discover that we're very good at making things stop existing. As Ambassador Young left the chamber, the alien delegates sat in stunned silence. They had just witnessed the birth of something new in galactic politics. A species so protective of its own that it would commit genocide to defend them. Some were terrified. Others were impressed. All of them understood that the balance of power in the galaxy had changed forever. Back on Earth, Admiral Choi Yuna stood in her office and looked out at the stars. Reports came in daily from human fleets across the galaxy. The last Vorthak mining station had been destroyed near the galactic rim. The final crystal ship had been tracked down and eliminated in a distant nebula. After 6 months of systematic hunting, the job was complete. Her aide, Colonel Park Min, entered with the final report. Admiral, Captain O'Bin sends word from the outer spiral. They've confirmed the destruction of the last known Vorthak presence. It's over. Admiral Choi took the report and read it carefully. 0 Vorthak ships remaining. 0 Vorthak colonies operational. 0 Vorthak life signs detected anywhere in the galaxy. Complete mission success. Send a message to all human fleets, she ordered. Stand down from combat operations. Begin returning to home ports. The war is over. Colonel Park hesitated at the door. Admiral, do you think we did the right thing, exterminating an entire species? Admiral Choi thought about the question for a long moment. Then she pulled up a video file on her computer. It showed the last transmission from New Busan. Children running in terror as crystal weapons destroyed their school. Colonel, those children never got to grow up, never got to fall in love, never got to have children of their own. The Vorthak took that away from them. They took away their futures, and the futures of countless other innocents across 47 different worlds. She closed the video file. We didn't start this war. We just finished it. Colonel Park nodded and left to send the stand-down orders. Years passed. the galaxy settled into a new era of peace. Species that had once lived in fear of Vorthak raids could now explore and colonize freely.